Welcome back, everyone, to GGN. All right, this is part 2 for this news report for today for Wednesday, the 18th of December, 2013. My website is ggnonline.net, and on YouTube, my channels are ddarko2012 and ddarko2013. I'm going to cover the weather and other stuff, including the economy. Significant severe weather outbreak with tornadoes this weekend in the Dixie Alley's Gulf states. So there's a little graph or a little picture of it. A significant severe outbreak is likely across the Gulf states this weekend, which will bring large hail, damaging winds, and even strong tornadoes to the region, otherwise known as Dixie Alley. Similar to the Plains Tornado Alley, but seems to be more frequent lately. And we have seen a lot of the pulsing going on and spraying, and a lot of it has been, you've seen a lot of it being concentrated on the East Coast, the Southwest, the Northwest, or the Northeast and the South. I think even a few times we had where it was like this, the whole thing. That's the current long wave or Haarp frequency status or reading. That's from today, the most up to date, and you have moderate, right before moderate high. Starting basically the epicenter would be southern Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky region, hitting all the way to the coast, and that up north to almost Canada, down south. So they're it's pretty crazy. It's actually, we've been having some pretty cold weather here in the Midwest, and then I noticed that all the temperatures are going to rise to it's already risen a little bit to like 30, and then tomorrow will be almost 40 degrees. 40 degrees. I mean, we've been having some cold ass temperatures, so this is going to have some serious effects, like possible tornadoes. So that makes perfect sense. I've seen them spraying. I mean, you guys have seen them too, spraying like there's no tomorrow. And of course, we can see here that they're pulsing. So, but it makes me wonder too, because recently they were spraying too as well, and it was still pretty cold. And it makes me wonder, when it was 8 degrees, 10 degrees for however long it was, it should have actually probably been like -5 degrees, -10 degrees in reality. And now when it's almost 40 degrees, it probably should be about 20 degrees. So they keep fighting what the inevitable is, and that is at least a mini ice age or an ice age, or a decrease in sunspots, or what they say, exceptionally inactive sun. So leading scientists say that the current rate of decline in solar activity is such that there's a real risk of seeing a return of such conditions. The solar activity is now falling more rapidly than at any time in the last 10,000 years. This is what he believes, because he says that basically they're able to determine how active the sun has been over thousands of years through ice cores. So this minimum activity, or minimum, basically changed from 10% to just a few years ago to 25 to 30%. Speaking of percentages, we have Al Gore, man bear pig. He forecasted an ice-free Arctic by 2013, but the ice actually expanded 50%. If you actually look at some of these pictures out there about the ice sheets of the Arctic and the North Pole, it's actually kind of crazy. Just looking from, I think it was August of 2012 to August of 2013, and see how much it's grown. I mean, it's pretty significant. It says that ice levels in Antarctica had expanded to record levels for the second year in a row. On that note, ice under the ice, they're finding diamonds discovered in Antarctica. They say the problem is that the frozen continent is protected from mining for decades under an international treaty. I'm sure there's a reason for that, whether it's underground bases or something, for an international treaty, kind of like with the North Pole. Actually, it was in Antarctica that we just covered an article where it actually hit 186 degrees below zero, which, of course, but it was lower than it's been, in a while. Like, basically, it was breaking kind of a record. Back to the chemtrail report, you can kind of see this is for Wednesday. Already past that into the evening, but this is Wednesday night, which you're looking at this big blob of chem crap moving to the center of the country from the west, moving eastward, covering the whole East Coast, North Mexico, Northwest, and basically the only spots that aren't getting hit are New Mexico, Arizona, It looks like Colorado and Utah maybe. That's on Friday, but then on Saturday there's this big clearing out of almost half the country. Probably because they did all the spraying that they needed to do to engineer this weekend's storm of tornadoes and stuff. So just recently we had in Israel, they had icy conditions. It says here that they had colder than normal temperatures for December. For the first time in 112 years, it snowed in Cairo. And moving on here, you have Obama and the Great Lakes selling them to China. Obama allows Great Lakes water to be sold to China as half of the U.S. faces extreme water crisis. Some little fun facts here. Great Lakes hold approximately 21% of the total supply of fresh water in the entire world. So it's considering the fact that global water supplies are becoming extremely tight, that's an invaluable resource. So we can talk about water scarcity and that. And someone pointed this out. I've covered this before about Bill Gates trying to create these replacement eggs and chicken with plant substitutes. It's like, what are they going to grow these plants with? With water, right? So they're going to use water for that. It's all about one and not the other. Reduce your meat consumption, beef consumption to save the water. And that's because that's what they say, right? It's good for the environment, less water usage. The Utah Spy Center requiring 1.7 million gallons of water daily to operate. They like scarcity, though. Whether it's energy scarcity, scarcity and crises is how these people operate. That's how they control us. That's how they control you, is through scarcity. So if they're so worried about the rising waters, right? That's what who was it? John Kerry was telling somebody in the Philippines, I think it was. The rising climate change, rising waters and seas. It's like, okay, well, we'll take that water, like I said, and desalinize it, and help your people. But they don't care about that because they can't benefit from scarcity. Also, you have them scoping out this biofuel. Creating biofuels out of algae could replace 70% of U.S. oil imports. Well, U.S. is one of the biggest producers and exporters of natural gas and oil right now. Also, so you see the thing with the BP disaster and the Fukushima, people were saying was that to just kill stuff and create an algae, and maybe that's what they're doing to create this biofuel. It almost sounds benevolent, right? Because they call it biofuel, sounds environmentally friendly, but if they have to do something like a BP oil disaster in order to get it, along with Fukushima, that doesn't sound too friendly, as animals and stuff are washing up shore dead in Alaska, and that issuing high radiation levels, don't eat the food in California recently. I'm not sure why this article won't come up, but the recent news about BP, ex-BP engineer found guilty in oil spill cover-up, proven BP lied about how much oil is escaping into the Gulf. And British spy in Iran was watching oil shipments. Iranian MP revealed the alleged MI6 agent was passing on information on Iran, including shipping industries, to its enemies to be in international efforts to cripple the sector. The recent news, missing American in Iran was working for CIA. So, this Levinson, back in 2007, Chinese spy busted stealing Iowa corn seeds. So, I'm not really sure why they would do that. They just rejected the 5th U.S. corn cargo in a month, citing GMO strain. A couple of weeks ago, we had a virtual currency heist. Now we have a Chinese biotech espionage in the middle of Iowa. Then you have this, I believe it's from today. Bitcoin plummets as China's largest exchange blocks new deposits. The digital cryptocurrency has lost almost 50% of its value overnight after BTC China said it could no longer accept deposits in the Chinese currency. We just covered this on Monday, and it was in regards to not being anonymous anymore as far as using Bitcoin, because China would set the precedent because they're asking for identification of that. Federal agents caught an alleged Chinese spy last week trying to smuggle highly valuable inbred corn seeds out of the country. So, is it, the Chinese are coming, the Chinese are coming to America. No, it's about protecting the monopolies. These big companies, corporations like Monsanto. He faces 10 years in prison, $5 million fine for stealing trade secrets worth up to $40 million. So rejecting the fifth U.S. corn cargo, they just steal their own kind, re-engineer it, whatever, and then they don't have to buy it from the U.S. But it's like, why would you even want the stuff to begin with? We just covered about leaky gut syndrome, how it causes that. Deals with Russia have saved Ukraine from the economic collapse. Ukraine's total foreign debt is $140 billion, 80% of GDP. It says that a deal will prevent Ukraine from defaulting on debts and buys the country time to enact serious reforms to get its economy back on track. So, again, East-West trading blocks. Talking about the West trading bloc, we have German Parliament elects Merkel as Chancellor for the third time. The fact that she was re-elected and stuff like that for the third time means that she's the banker's girl. I was going to say she's the banker's guy or man, but they like putting the females up there too to carry out, like I said, the will of these internationalists. It's kind of like the politicians with the clean shaven and the ties and trust me, a woman with a smiling face, trust me, Yeah, it's funny too because the most of the news that I saw about her, I didn't even see this. I just barely caught this news. Was that she's talking out against Obama about NSA spying, about spying. And it's just like that Germany has their own spy network. I'm sure of it. And the point is that it seems more like a diversion from what's actually going on, which there's probably a lot of people that didn't want her to be reelected. And the stupid spying story kind of just drowns everything out. EU wants cloned meat off the table. They said they banned meat from cloned animals, but stopped short of imposing restrictions on produce from offsprings of such animals. The guy says it's a potentially sensitive issue in the EU-US free trade talks. Russia knows about those free trade talks because they don't want ractopamine, the poison in their beef that they're buying from the U.S. anymore. They stopped accepting the shipments. And they said, please stop doing it, and the U.S. kept sending it. They said, you got to accept it. You have to accept it. That's part of the free trade agreements, say, free trade. London bankers expect 44% bonus increase, says a survey. So managing directors may increase their bonus from, $166,000 to $115,000. A woman tweets about a 30-hour workday, then dies. So it's not just in banking. Remember that story? A copywriter for ad agency in Indonesia collapsed on Saturday and died the next day, and fingers seem to be squarely pointed at the overwork and Thai Red Bull. Said worked for the company since last May, tweeted regularly about her epic work days. Posted on Saturday 30 hours of working and still going strong. So what came next? Heart failure, a coma, and death. And that's how it's going to be. It's going to be even worse, It's kind of like Elysium. The guy went, Matt Damon's character went into that little room where the robots were and got radiated, right? Just because he said, if you don't like it, we'll just find somebody else. Woman checks Facebook and misses the end of a pier. The tourist almost drowned, but saved her life. A young Taiwanese woman's Facebook status update would have read, I'm falling off a pier. So this was in Australia. She was so engrossed in her smartphone that she walked straight off a pier and almost drowned. Somebody witnessed the fall and called the police, who plucked her out of the water around 100 feet from the pier. Facebook can see what users type even if the status is not posted. I kind of already covered this, but what I didn't say is what they were actually doing. They wanted to see how people were self-censoring. That was the whole thing. They want to understand to what extent people self-censor. Army intelligence wants to scan social media from 40 countries to search for dangerous trends. Based off those supposed WikiLeaks Snowden things releases, they're already spying on the world. So it's not really new, and it diverts attention from the fact that they're probably doing it to their own people. Computers can be hacked using high-pitched sound that you can't hear. Using the microphones and speakers that come in many of the laptop computers and mobile devices, hackers can secretly transmit and receive data using high-frequency audio signals that are mostly inaudible to human ears. Then you have NORAD. NORAD tracks Santa, and critics say that it's basically promoting militarism. There's an animated video on the NORAD tracks Santa website, injects militarism into Christmas by showing fighter jets escorting Santa's sleigh. But apparently there's a public criticism about it for the first time. We know most of the email surveillance goes through an Israeli company, U.S. Israeli security company, selling mobile phone surveillance products to agencies around the world. Thank you.